seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice the body.
Welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Alongside me, fellow Van Gundite, it's Wayne Spoony. Spoony, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Both Gundys. Give me them both. I love those guys.
Yeah, I'm a huge disciple of the whole Van Gundy nation there. Look, before we get into it, Spoony, obviously you're a writer, you're a columnist for the Celtics blog. Have you got any new pieces coming out that you want to plug?
I got a deep dive. This is going to be a novella by the time it's over. Part 1, comparing Jaylen Brown to other star scoring wings, should be coming out tomorrow or Tuesday. Give that a look. It's a lot. There's a lot to it. I put a lot of work into it. I hope it's not so long. No one wants to read it, so please go read it. I would really appreciate that.
No, yeah, definitely go check it out. I've said this too many times on the podcast, Spoony, but love your work. I say it to wrap up every podcast, but genuinely everything that Spoony puts out in written form and otherwise is well worth a look, so go check it out, celticsblog.com, from tomorrow, it sounds like. So let's get on to the news of the day, if you will. This guy, Jeff Van Gundy, has been brought on by the Boston Celtics as a senior consultant. Now, how this news came about, I guess, is an interesting place to start. Initially, it was thought to be discovered by Reddit user Grumpy Allen, but then they credited Celtics Post on Twitter, who initially broke the news simply just by, I guess, in some way or some form, browsing the Celtics staffing website and seeing Jeff Van Gundy listed at the bottom there as a senior consultant. But a few months ago, the New York Post, reported that Van Gundy had talks, quote unquote, with the Celtics about an assistant coaching role. And then I believe another Reddit user spotted Jeff Van Gundy at Logan Airport a few months prior, but that's news for another day. Spoony, just your thoughts in general. It's a bit of a slow news day, but this is a notable name, a notable personality being brought on by the Celtics.
Yeah, I think ultimately what's really important to keep in mind is the role he's hired for. He's not an assistant coach. He's not on the staff. He's a special consultant. And having worked with various levels of consultants in my professional career, a high percentage of them are not particularly useful. I just say that, or not as useful as how much they charge. So I think Van Gundy will be a good person for Joe to bounce off. Like, I'm having this problem getting used to NBA coaching. Like, or how do I get this player to listen to me? And then JVG can say, like, well, these players these days, they're nothing like my old teams. We used to really have battles and fights. So I don't know what to know. But he's not been a coach for a very long time. He's been behind the broadcast mic for a while now. I love him in that role. So I was actually sad to see him go and get laid off. But I don't anticipate he's going to play a huge role, but he's probably a nice guy that Joe can give a call every couple of weeks just to be like, hey, you got any ideas, got any thoughts? And I think the more high-level basketball minds, because JVG does have a high-level basketball mind, the more you have them available to Joe, I think the better.
Yeah, and he has been sort of keeping up with the Kardashians in the coaching world. Mm-hmm. He's 61 years old, but he's been serving as an international coach. So for the 2017 FIBA AmeriCup tournament as an assistant coach for U.S. men's basketball during the 2019 FIBA World Cup and the 2020 Summer Olympics. He's already worked with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum as well directly on the 2019 FIBA World Cup team as well. So he has some experience with our main guys. He's kept up in the coaching side of things a little bit and has definitely been flexing that knowledge on the broadcast. But like you said, he hasn't actually been like an NBA coach for over a decade now or more.
Yeah.
He has had some notable highlights as an NBA personality. We're going to get to one of them right now.
Rebound, New York. And fists are flying at the other end. Larry Johnson is one of them. Here we go. And both of those guys will not play.
We might have a new first of the floor favorite, right? I believe Van Gundy in that particular instance was the first of the floor and probably the last off of it as well. Are you familiar with some of these scrambles that Van Gundy has found himself in as a coach?
I've definitely seen that one. I mean, he's a fiery dude, man.
Uh-huh.
Like he is. It even comes through in his broadcasting. Like when he gets on a rant of something he truly dislikes, like he lets it be known. I think that's why he was so polarizing, because some people hated him. I'm one of the people who loved him. I thought he was hilarious. I thought he had kind of a unique personality. And he was a good foil to Mark Jackson in a lot of ways, who kind of is just a cliche master and kind of a hype guy. So yeah, I mean, I know he's a legendary coach. I was not following the Knicks particularly closely back then, so I can't say I was like watching these games live. We probably didn't even get them. But yeah, he's just like a legendary basketball personality when he was a coach and in the broadcast booth, which is just fun to have around.
Yeah, so you mentioned coaching there. So before broadcasting, he was a standout NBA head coach where he compiled a 430 to 318 record during his 11 seasons as coach. This is from the Brian Robb write-up on masslive.com, including stints with the Knicks and the Rockets. And Van Gundy has also helped the Knicks reach the NBA Finals during that 1999 lockout season before falling to Tim Duncan, David Robertson, and the Spurs there. So, yeah, I mean, the thing that I like about him in terms of how it applies to the Celtics here is, first of all, like you'd have to imagine that he would have had plenty of options in terms of the direction that he could go in career-wise.
Yeah.
And the fact that he chose the Celtics, I think that bodes well for the culture that's been instilled by Brad Stevens and everyone in this current era, and like all the pieces that I guess have been like meticulously put in place to form this iteration of the team. I don't want to say he could have gone anywhere, but I'm sure he had a lot of options and he chose the Celtics. I would love to know a lot more about what that conversation looked like, and would certainly love to know a lot more about what his role is going to be in the upcoming year. It sounds like he's going to be spending some time with our G League team as well, the main Celtics, which is interesting and might bode well for Walshy there. But I don't know, unless you've got anything else, we can probably just move on. There's not really a lot to get to. Slow news day.
Yeah. I really don't have any other takes other than JVG would have loved Walshy on those Knicks teams.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, folks in the chat, and if you're listening later, let us know, are you or are you not a Van Gundy fan? Jeff or Stan, Jeff in particular, who have just brought on board, pretty divisive character, so interested to hear what folks have to say there. All right, Spoonie. Shorter pod today. This is the last thing we're going to get to, and we're going to try and drag it out for, I guess, 15, 20 minutes now. There's 2 preseason games remaining, Tuesday night at home versus the Knicks, and the final game on the road against the Charlotte Hornets. What are the top 3 things, and you can go longer if you want to, given how quickly we're rushing through this, the top 3 things that you want to see from the Celtics on or off the court in the remaining 2 preseason games?
Oh, do not tempt me to have more, Ben. We want to wrap it up in a half hour, a little over. We will be here a while.
All right, let's go.
All right. So the first thing, and I think this is more for the Tuesday game, because I doubt a lot of the actual like starters are going to be playing in that Charlotte game. I want to see JB and KP pick and rolls. So over the last 2 playoffs combined, we're 6.8 points per 100 worse when Tatum sits. Plus 4.5 when he's on the court, minus 2.33 when he is off. I feel like JB, and look, he sits for 9-10 minutes in a playoff game. But the margins in playoff games are so narrow. It's like one run in the third quarter can flip a 10-point lead to a 2-point deficit, and then all of a sudden you're chasing the game and it's just entirely different. So while those 10 minutes don't seem like a lot, they are a small portion of an NBA game, they can mean everything when you're in a 7-game series. And I think the key to unlocking the Celtics when Tatum is off the court, and Drew helps with this quite a bit, but it's got to be Jaylen Brown. And Kristaps Porzingis is going to make his life as a pick-and-roll ball handler so much easier just because KP can do so many things. We've seen him catching lobs. We've seen him catch it in the short roll and crossing people up. We've seen him popping and burying threes from 3 feet behind the line. He is an offensive weapon, but bigs like that, they can't get themselves the ball, right? They're not Like Tatum, you could just give him a pick and let him go to work, right? KP's not that type of player. And Drew is great, but when it's game 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals, I have a feeling the ball is going to be in Jaylen Brown's hands as opposed to Drew Holiday's. And look, Drew's had his playoff struggles with scoring the ball, so I think it makes sense for it to go to Jaylen Brown. And they just need to build that chemistry. They need to get that muscle memory together. So when it is those high leverage situations like the first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter in a 6-point game, if you can extend the lead while Tatum sits, like that just raises your ceiling as a team so much higher than when it's like, okay, JT's sitting, let's hope we can play him even. And like if you could just take advantage, like, you know, in those Warriors finals, like if we could just killed them when Curry sat, that would have been so valuable. And so I just really want to see that. It needs to start now.
Yeah, that's huge. So you want to see a solution to the whole pants shitting situation that occurs whenever Tatum goes to the bench.
Yes.
And then, like, secondary to that, you want to see someone else capable of feeding Porzingis and putting him into successful situations outside of Tatum while Tatum sits as well. I do think if there's any person who can unlock that ability from Jaylen Brown or anyone other than Tatum, it is Porzingis, just in terms of, we've talked about all of this already so much, but his gravity on the court and just the fact that he's like a fucking skyscraper out there. So in terms of getting him the ball off of that roll or a post up or whatever it may be, surely even Jaylen, with all of his uncoordinated flaws when it comes to coordinating an offense, surely he can lift him out of that funk. I think that's a really good one. I would love to see that as well. And so much of that is just like, can we see these guys on the court for long stretches of time between now and when the regular season starts? So I think that's a really good one. I started at the complete opposite end of the spectrum. I would like to see some fight from Luke Cornett. Like, is he too comfortable, like too secure as the quintessential locker room guy? Maybe, because like we haven't really seen any hustle or grit or tenacity from him. You might say, well, it's the preseason. I might argue, well, like he should be fighting for minutes. He should be fighting.
He's on a non-guaranteed
position.
deal. He doesn't have a guarantee, dude. Yeah.
Defensive rebounding percentage in the preseason so far. Again, it's the preseason. I'm just going to use that qualifier one more time, and then it has to be assumed for everything else that we discuss on this podcast. Yeah. Defensive rebounding percentage for Luke Cornett, 10.6%, which puts him, I sort of filtered NBA stats of centers who are playing between 12 and 18 minutes in the preseason so far, and Cornett is nestled comfortably in between that minute range, and he's like bottom 10%, like floundering below competition, and there are even more unrecognizable names in that list than Luke Cornett. So that's just the defensive rebound side of things, but that's really the least that we should expect from him. I think he's the largest American-born player in the league, or at least by height standards, and he's just not grabbing those rebounds. And then, like, can he catch a ball, please, on a roll? Can he please just not have Butterfingers for once and actually catch? We've found him in some good positions offensively a number of times so far in the preseason, and he hasn't been able to catch the ball. So I would like to see a complete 180 turnaround from Cornett's perspective.
Okay, I have one that's like extremely related to that, so what we can just maybe ball it up all together here is I had down, I want to see more Kata and I want to see more Wayne and Gabriel. Because I agree, like Luke Cornett has not exactly snatched the opportunity and run with it. I will say I trust Luke more being that handoff guy. Like he does set really good screens. But once you're digging down to like, well, he sets great screens, like, and that's the one positive. Like you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel for what this guy is doing well. Yep. And there's just no excuse not to rebound at least like a slightly below average level. Like, dude, there are like point guards who rebound better than 10% defensive rebound percentage, man. So I don't know what's up with him. I wonder if you hit it is like, he just feels like I was here last year. I played okay last year. Like, I know I'm going to make this team. But Kata, like, I'm not a Kata guy. He's breathing down his neck, in my opinion, at this point. Like, I've been fairly impressed with him on both that. Well, defensively, I'm concerned, but not like Luke is some shutdown big or some two-way player. So, like, Kata, I think, looks springier offensively.
Yeah, and like I want to be careful not to go in too hard on Cornett here because I love the guy personally, not that I know him at all. But Kata, like, he doesn't look like he's entitled out there to his minutes and to his possessions and his touches, whereas Cornett, Yeah, like, I mean, how much weight do you put into this? Like, he's clearly such an important part of the locker room, and you think, like, game 57 on the road in Detroit, and you've got guys like Luke Cornett in the locker room just, like, keeping the vibes high. How much weight goes into that, and therefore, like, how much does that detract from his overall level of urgency when it comes to on-the-court stuff?
I mean, Brad Stevens does not seem to give a shit about, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this guy's good in the locker room. Like, that dude is ruthless. He's just traded Marcus Smart, you know? Like,
true.
Nobody is safe, especially dudes on non-guaranteed deals. So I don't know. Like, do you think he's weighing that? Maybe because it's a deep bench spot, but I don't know, dude. Like, I think Brad's like, if there's a better player, we trust our guys and our culture is good enough that, like, we can just shuffle these chairs and hope we find somebody that pops.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on Brad Stevens. He obviously sees things differently to us. That's why he's awesome at what he does and in the role that he's in. And I'm podcasting from my attic here in Australia.
We'd have IT on a max if we were in charge.
Yeah, I know. We'd be in big trouble. So, yeah, I mean, it's a little early to tell, but I'm surprised not to see Cornett going harder, particularly like with the championship vibes around the team and what the expectations are. It's just a shame. So maybe we can put it down to a slow start. Maybe he'll turn around, because we don't expect much of Cornett, but I certainly expect more than what we've seen so far. So we kind of just merged two of our points there, but I technically went last. So do you want to throw another one at us, Spoonie?
Real quick on Gabriel, I think he has looked atrocious.
Agreed.
But I'm not sure it's entirely his fault, right? Because, like, his game is like setting screens, rolling hard to the rim, playing super hard, and rebounding. And, like, he's getting out there at the end of preseason games when it's already devolved in essentially like a YMCA pickup game, right? And, like, that dude is not super valuable when it's a pickup game. But he could be valuable when you surround him with better players, and they do all the stuff he's bad at, and he can just concentrate on doing the things he's good at. It's almost like Jared Vanderbilt. He's like a worse version of Vanderbilt, where, like, Vandy is good at, like, a bizarre set of skills, but when you surround him with LeBron and AD, it shines. Because, okay, dude, you go grab the hardest matchup on the other team so AD doesn't have to. AD can just protect the rim. Like, you get your nose in there and get us offensive rebounds and win extra possessions so AD's not banging around. You make sure you're boxing out the biggest guy on the court so we're not racking up miles on LeBron. Like, that's where his value comes. And then when you just toss him out there for the last 5 minutes of a game where, like, Peyton Pritchard's just crossing people up and, like, throwing 33-foot threes in, like, he's going to look bad. And he touches the ball twice. And, of course, he, like, fumbles it once. He's just clearly not comfortable. He's a better player than he's looked. So I want to see more of Keita, and I want to see more of him.
Yeah, absolutely. So seeing those deep rotation guys, or guys who will have already fallen out of the rotation, getting more minutes, at least in the preseason, with key rotation players. So was that officially point number 2, or is that a bonus point?
That was the bonus. Mine was
like
more of Keita and Gabriel because Luke. So let me throw my last one out here then. I just want to see Joe mess around with lineups. Like, Lamar Stevens played the 5 in that first Philly game, and it, like, sparked that, like, bench unit's comeback to win the game. Like, let's see that again. Like, you don't know what some of these guys can do when they're put in weird positions until you put them in weird positions and figure it out a little bit. Like, I thought Stevens looked all right at the 5. Like, who knows? You might need that look for 3 minutes in a playoff game, or you might need that look when you're resting Horford, KP's got, like, a 1-week injury, and then it's like, it's Luke Cornett playing 48 minutes a night? No, probably not. Let's see what can Lamar give us 15? Let's try it. Like, he's done all right before, so I want to see some weird lineups like Pritchard, Hauser, Drew Holiday, Tatum, KP. Just, like, let's just see what that looks like. Another one, like, get me Svi a little more involved with the star players. Like, I feel like he's not played with the stars at all. He barely played in that first game. So, like, give me the non-Tatum, just surround Jalen with, like, great decision makers. Derek White, Svi, Jaylen Brown, Hauser for shooting, and Al Horford. Like, what does it look like when Jaylen Brown has, like, 3 great decision makers and Hauser spacing the floor? We don't know yet. We have no idea. So, like, I just want to see some weird stuff, Joe. Like, don't go through your normal, like, here's my 9-man regular season rotation. Okay, it's the second half. Bring out the, end of the bench. Like, mix and match. See what happens. Why not? You got 2 games to experiment.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the preseason. Like, show me heliocentric Tatum point guard with Svi and Hauser out there, and Horford
Pritchard.
and Pausing. Yeah, exactly. Just like crazy shooters
Horford,
all around him. Yeah. Hopefully, it just doesn't seem like Joe's modus operandi to do that kind of thing. He's more structured than that. But this is Celtics porn to me, Spoonie. Like these kind of spicy lineup shakeups are what I'm all about. So that's a really good one. My second point is, can we see just one efficient Jason Tatum game that includes the following: 38% or higher from 3? I don't think that's asking too much of an All-NBA first-team player who has reportedly been working on his pull-up 3 all offseason again, and his wrist is fine again. 38% from 3 would be great. I'd also like to see 3 or more assists out of a Tatum-Porzingis pick and roll, whether that's to Porzingis or someone who opens up on the wing or the corners. Want to see that action run multiple times. I feel like we're going to see it spammed a lot throughout the regular season. Can we settle our nerves about team rebounding with Jason Tatum, have him come in and return to his sort of fairly dominant defensive rebounding form that we've seen for the last 2 seasons? He led the team in rebounding last year, I believe.
Yeah.
And then can we see 3 or more post-up attempts in a game from Tatum? We actually have seen that in the preseason already in the game that he did play. A, B, C, and D, those things I want to see as part of my wish list for a Tatum efficient game.
I am fascinated to see the post-ups. I think that's the thing that I especially... I trust he's going to get back to the rebounding, the three-point shooting. I hope so. Man, it would be so nice if he just went like 5 of 7 from 3 in like 2.5 quarters on Tuesday night and then just is done for the preseason.
Yes.
Like, it would make me feel so good going into the season. Like, okay, he's got it. We're fine. Even though I know it doesn't matter. He could go 1 of 8 and it's still not going to really matter. But we need this, Jason. It's for us, our psyches.
Does it not actually matter a lot? Like, please tell me. Maybe I'm overthinking it, as I tend to do. But like, we do need Jason Tatum amongst everything to really take that next step. Everyone's talking about it. People within the team are talking about it. We need him to take that next step. And without his 3 going down at an efficient clip, it's not going to open up the rest of his game. It's not going to open up games for people he's sharing the court with. Like, we do need his 3 to return to form to some degree, spot ups and catch and shoots and all of the above. Without that happening, like, that's not Tatum taking the step that we need him to take. So I feel like it's really important, and I just want to see just a little glimpse of it in the preseason here.
Yeah, so you mentioned the post ups, and it looked like Joe made an effort to get him in the post in that first Sixers game. And I think KP had a few post-ups and Drew had a few post-ups that game. So I wonder if it'll be a bigger part of the offense. It's kind of weird to say, like, the post-up is, it's dead or whatever. But if you have a guy that can draw doubles down there every time, it's not like, oh, we need him to take 9 shots out of post-ups. It's like, we need him to take 2 and get 5 assists out of it because they're going to be sending help. And it's just such an easy way to generate offense. And the chance of getting your pocket picked is much lower because, you know what I mean? Like, your back is to the defender. Like, even the Heat can't swipe your dribble in that situation most of the time.
Touch wood.
So, yeah. How many do you want to see from him? 3, 5?
Minimum 3 a game. We saw 3 in the first preseason game, and all of them generated scoring, and whether it was either scoring the bucket off the floor in that moment or getting to the free throw line or an assist, they all generated scores. 100% success rate as far as I'm concerned. So minimum 3 per game in regular season minutes, and depending on the success going forward, like, potentially more. What do you think?
I'm with you. I think he averaged 1 a game last year and was like the 99th percentile in efficiency, which is like just begging to do it more often. Like, obviously with volume, efficiency is going to get reduced, but like, you are not hitting the optimal volume efficiency mix if you are doing 1 at 99% efficiency. Like, that needs to level out. Like, if it's 4 a game and it's 80th percentile efficiency, that's still incredible. Like, that's even better than 1 at 99. It was almost shocking how little we went to it. Especially, I think it's a great way to attack a zone too. Like get him on that, like at the free throw line extended, kind of in the high post. He's good from there as well. And it does kind of allow you to survey the court a little bit, slows the game down for you some. And it just gives Miami a different look. And I mean, that's hopefully we don't have to worry about them, but I just have this sinking feeling we're going to.
Yeah, that's a really good point with the zone. It's not something I've got on my list of things I want to see in the preseason, but I would like to see us successfully attack a zone to the point where the team that we're playing against needs to go away from that zone. That's what I would consider a successful response to the troubles that we've had with the zone in the last couple of years. And the first look I'd like to see there is just Porzingis at the nail, dump it into him, allow the zone to collapse, and then go from there. We haven't really had many zone defenses thrown at us, if any at all, so far this preseason. So we haven't really had an opportunity to see that. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, I want to see us go zone too on the flip side of things, and we have a little bit. I think it's something we'll see, but I have one more if we want to get to it. There was a comment. I'm sorry, I don't know who said it, but he said it was Tommy here. I want to see Drew Holiday with the starters. I want to go one step further. I want to see like 7 minutes where it's like Drew Holiday, heliocentric offense without Tatum on the court, and see what that looks like too. Like I'm really concerned about the non-Tatum minutes, and like Drew is a way to solve that. Like I said, I think in playoff games it'll probably be JB, but like let's see what get Drew comfortable in this offense handling the ball, because clearly he's not been, right? Like, and that makes sense. I don't think he's going to be comfortable for a while, but one way to get someone comfortable is lots of reps in game situations, and the preseason is low risk time to do that. So like, dude, 7 minutes. Drew, you're running 2 pick and rolls of possession. If the first one doesn't work, like pick out passes, get to the rim, take pull-ups, green light, buddy, go absolutely crazy.
Yeah, throw him in the deep end. Teach him how to swim.
Yeah, right.
I think that would be really good to see. I'm not as concerned about the non-Tatum minutes, but only because of the personnel that we now have. But you're right in that, like, we haven't actually seen that in practice yet. So now I'm worried, Spoonie. Maybe I should be more concerned about the non-Tatum minutes, but that would be a great way to quell those concerns. It's just, like you said, throw him in the deep end, force him into every offensive action, and see what comes of it. That's a good one. Do you want me to wrap up here on my last one?
No, yeah, you're on your last one. Yeah.
All right, cool. So last one for me, 3 of 3. Can we see an 8th man pop on the roster? And like we've sort of touched on this already in this conversation, and certainly on previous podcasts. But can we just go into the regular season with a solid 8-man rotation? Obviously, number 6 and number 7 is I guess Horford or White, and then Pritchard. But who comes after that? Who's going to solidify themselves at number 8 or 9 or even 10? We're not really sure. So whether that's Samuel Hauser, house money, 4 of 9 from 3 last game. Can that hold true? Whether it's O'Shea Brissett or Lamar Stevens, can they settle in a little bit and find a groove? Can O'Shea's tenacity plug into what our starters do, and can he do the dirty work for them and enhance their game and force turnovers and gain extra possessions? Or can Delano Banton limit his mistakes so that he and Pritchard are truly interchangeable when it comes, to offense-defense rotations from the point guard perspective off the bench there for Joe Mazzulla? So I would like to see those guys just solidify themselves and, that 7, 8, 9 role there. I don't think we've seen enough of that yet.
Yeah, well, maybe it's Svi, right? Like, Svi absolutely has probably played the best of that sort of collection of wings outside of Hauser. I think Hauser's going to get the first crack at it. I would be shocked if he's not, but he hasn't exactly blown people away. Defensively, I'm really interested to see if Hauser repeats last year defensively, because I think there's a chance he could regress a little bit as teams have some film on him. Like sometimes when you're new, right, and you look kind of like a goofy 6'7" dude like Hauser does, right? We saw teams being like, oh, the way to attack this guy is just get the switch and go right by him, and that didn't work. But there is ways to attack people other than that. Like you saw us attack Trae Young with like off-ball stuff, make him go through 2 picks, and he just can't. And I don't know if Hauser can really navigate a couple pin downs of possession. Like, that's really hard to do. Not a lot of guys can. My guess is he probably can't. So, I mean, I mean, I'm not concerned about the shot, but I am a little concerned defensively. And then you look on the flip side, well, that's where Brissett and Stevens maybe can make their hay if the shot just goes down a little bit. But you're right. It's like a morass. Like, there's no guy. Like, Hauser has, again, like Luke, he's not seized the moment at all either. So I hesitate to put a little too much into preseason, but like Pritchard is evidence of what it looks like when you just grab the opportunity and take it, right? Like, I don't know if we would have considered him nailed on seventh man going into preseason. Now you said it, and I was like, I didn't even think twice, dude. Like, of course Pritchard's a seventh man. You seen what this dude's doing? Like,
he's a lock.
Yeah, agreed. But like, if he had a bad preseason, I'm not sure if he would be. So I don't know. That'll be interesting. I think that'll hopefully be a big part of what we find out in these next two games.
Yeah, and like we've seen so much of them already. We talked about it last pod, but that second preseason game against the Knicks was so much fun because we got to see so much of our reserves, but we haven't seen enough of them meshing and gelling with our key rotation players. So we don't know what that fit's going to look like. So that's really important. The next couple of games. I do have a bonus one, Spoonie, but do you have any unmentioned bonus points before we wrap up?
I do not. Please. The Drew one was my unmentioned bonus point. So
okay, got
please.
it. All right. Well, one unfinished point of business so far this preseason that could still happen is the re-signing of this gentleman.
He gets one from White. Now he gives to White. Throws to
Blake Griffin throws it down. Throw it up.
Come on, make it so.
I was not expecting that. He's taking Luke's job if he comes back.
Yeah. We've got 2 open roster spots technically in terms of like unguaranteed contracts. So it could happen. Will it happen? I'm not sure. But Spoonie, this has been fun. A nice shorter one today. We said we'd try and stick under half an hour. We're at 32 minutes now, so that's record time for us. That is going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back drawing the winner of our 5-star Walshy competition on the next podcast. So you have maybe 24 hours to enter if you haven't already. To do so, leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Extra points for humor and creativity there. The winner will get their very own Walshy jersey in the mail. Spoonie, love your work, mate. Until next time, go Celtics.
I love the Celtics!